The robots aren't the scary part. Get this, Usain Bolt has finally been beaten. Think about that. The fastest man who's ever lived, 9.58 seconds in the 100 meters, now beaten by a robot in China. And after the robot crossed the finish line faster than Usain Bolt, it crashed into a wall. Welcome to the future, folks. The second World Humanoid Robot Games are underway in Beijing, China. And if you haven't seen the footage, you need to. More than 2,000 humanoid robots, hundreds of teams, countries from around the world. They're running, jumping, playing soccer, performing factory tasks, working through exercises designed to test whether these things can eventually function in warehouses, restaurants, factories, maybe even our homes. Basically, it's the Olympics for robots. Nobody needs a drug test. Nobody's complaining about the hotel accommodations, and apparently nobody has figured out the brakes, because one of these robots, Tiangong Ultra, reportedly ran the 100 meters in 9.39 seconds. Usain Bolt's world record, 9.58 seconds. Another robot called Lightning ran it in 9.47 and in testing reportedly went even faster. That's extraordinary. But here's the favorite part. Some of these machines can run at superhuman speeds, but they still have trouble stopping. They cross the finish line and smash into a padded barrier, which may be the single greatest metaphor for the technological revolution we're living through right now. We figured out how to make things go. We're still working out how to make things stop. And that brings us to artificial intelligence, robotics, automation, all of it. Because I think we're spending way too much time asking the wrong question. Everybody asks, what can this technology do for us? I think the more important question is, who controls it? Because I'm not particularly afraid of the robot. I'm a lot more interested in the guy holding the leash. And that distinction matters. Look, I've spent a lot of time, a lot of my life around markets. Markets do something extraordinarily well. They take thousands, even millions of people trying different things, risking their own capital, competing with each other, getting things wrong, occasionally getting things spectacularly right. Amazon, hello. Tesla, hello. Eventually, they figure out what works and what doesn't. That's what I see when I look at robotics. For the 100-meter dash, for a second, that makes a great headline. But the really important stuff is much more boring. Can a robot move materials safely in a factory? That'll matter to everybody. Can it unload a truck? Can it work in a dangerous environment where we'd rather not send a human being? Can it help an elderly person live independently? Can it perform repetitive tasks that nobody particularly wants to do? Can it make an American worker more productive? Can it make an American company more competitive? Because successfully plugging in a cable may ultimately matter a hell of a lot more to the economy than running a 9.39 100 meters. And eventually, inevitably, somebody will say, but Eric, you're going to lose jobs to these robots. They're going to take our jobs. Some of them likely will. Absolutely. Of course they will. Technology has been coming for our jobs for hundreds of years. The tractor came for farm labor. The automobile came for stable hands. ATMs changed banking. The internet crushed travel agencies. The smartphone swallowed cameras, maps, calculators, alarm clocks, and pretty much whatever was left of the yellow pages. And yet, we didn't run out of jobs. We created different jobs, better jobs in many cases, higher paying jobs, jobs that nobody could have imagined before the technology existed. That doesn't mean technological disruption is painless. It isn't. If your job disappears, being told that productivity increased somewhere else in the economy isn't particularly comforting. I get it. But freezing technology in place, that's not the answer either. And neither is turning it over to Washington, because you know exactly what comes next. Politicians see a revolutionary technology and immediately think they go to, we, DC, Washington, politicians, we should be in charge of this. No. That's the part that should scare the living daylights out of you. I want entrepreneurs building robots. I want engineers competing to make them better and faster. I want companies trying to figure out how to use them. I want investors risking their own money on all this technology. And I want consumers deciding whether the product is actually worth buying. Some of these companies will become enormous. Some will fail spectacularly. Good. That's called a market. Let the bad ideas die. Let the good ideas win spectacularly. Let competition decide, because competition creates another incredibly important thing: choice. If I don't trust your robot, I don't buy your robot. If your AI gives me garbage, I use somebody else's AI. If your product spies on me, I want the ability to throw in the garbage and buy from your competitor. That's power in the hands of the individual. But now imagine something very different. Imagine the robot isn't ultimately accountable to us or to you or me. It's accountable to the state, the government. A robot that carries groceries for an elderly woman, fantastic. A robot that records every conversation in her house and sends the information somewhere else, not so good, folks. A robot that works on the assembly line, well, that's increased productivity. Got it, great. A robot connected to a massive government surveillance network, that's control. And suddenly, the question isn't whether robots are good or bad. The technology is neutral. Power isn't, though. That's the real edge here. Every major technological revolution creates two possibilities. It can distribute power, or it can concentrate it. The printing press distributed information. The internet distributed information even further and faster. The smartphone put more computing power into your pocket, into your hand, than the government possessed just a few years ago. Artificial intelligence and robotics could do something similar. They could give individual capabilities that once belonged only to giant corporations and big government. Think about that. One person with AI may soon be able to build what used to require a whole company. One entrepreneur with a great idea may be able to operate with the productivity of 20 employees or more. One small business may suddenly compete with a giant corporation. Now that, for me, is very exciting. But the same technology can work in reverse. AI can watch. AI can identify. AI can track. AI can categorize. Robots can act on information in the physical world. Combine those capabilities with the coercive power of government, and now we're talking about something very different. China should make us think very carefully about that distinction. Not because China built a fast robot, good for them. Build ones faster, great. Competition, healthy. America should build one even faster and better. But China also offers us a very different model of the relationship between technology and government. And that's where Americans need to understand what's really at stake. The technological race of the next decade isn't just who builds the best AI or who builds the fastest robot. It's also which system produces the future. One built around centralized control, China, or one built around individual freedom, current United States so far. I know which one I'm betting on, because I've watched markets my entire life. I've watched supposedly brilliant people try to predict prices. I've watched governments try to manage markets. I've watched experts explain why something couldn't happen right before it happened. And I've learned one thing: nobody knows as much as they think they know, especially when they're sitting in Washington. So I don't want 5 bureaucrats deciding the future of robotics. I want 5, 50, 500 million people experimenting with it. I want competition. I want failure. I want risk. I want somebody in a garage building something everyone else thinks is ridiculous. Steve Jobs and the computer. Because somewhere in all that chaos is where the next great American company comes from. And that's the irony of these robot Olympics in Beijing. Everyone is staring at the machine running faster than Usain Bolt. I'm looking past the robot. I'm looking at the system behind it. Because the robot isn't necessarily the threat to your freedom. The person controlling the robot just might be. So enjoy the footage, laugh when they fall over, marvel when they sprint, watch a machine run 100 meters faster than a human being in recorded history, and then slam into a wall. Okay, it's incredible, it's funny, and yes, a little weird. But remember this: technology has always given human beings more power. The question is where the power ends up, in your hands or in their hands. That's the race that matters. And right now, that race is just getting started. As for our future mechanical overlords, for the moment at least, I've got some good news. They can outrun us. They just can't stop. Yet. I'm Eric Bolling. That's The Edge.